Hello and welcome to the Foxcatcher preview. My name's Julian Balance, joined up in Sin City by Nico Ashman. We've sort of got over the carnival now, mate, but there's still races to be had. You go off Broadway a little bit. We've still got a Group 1 down here at Caulfield. It'll be the second Orr Stakes for the year. So that'll be one for the history buffs at some quiz night in about 2088 when actually we're all on Mars because this Earth has evaporated. Anyway, how are you?
Quite some intro from you there. I'm good. I'm not ready for Mars just yet. There's plenty of time left here on Earth, hopefully. And yeah, you're right. We shift away from the metro to those, what do they call them? Standalone meetings now at Newcastle and, of course, Kimberley next week. We've got the Hunter this Saturday.
Yes.
It's a ripping race. They've done really well. Newcastle Jockey Club and Racing New South Wales putting this one together. And the Gone looks like it's shaping up as a pretty good one too. So good to see him get out to those provincial tracks. It's wedding season. Everyone's, most people I know have got a wedding on either this weekend or next weekend. So a lot of this going on in the church and like that, you know, that type of thing. So power to you, mate.
Very good, very good. Let's get to the track intel for Caulfield. We're out 6 metres the entire circuit for Orr Stakes Day. Now, I've got sort of good to soft range, but I'm sort of leaning towards I think we'll possibly get into the good 4. It's beautiful. We obviously filmed this Thursday morning, Nico. Beautiful conditions today in Melbourne. Tomorrow's fine. Look, we expect some rain possibly Saturday race day if we get any at all, and that could be sort of in the quaddie leg. So we could fall back into the soft range if we get the higher echelon of that. In terms of how I think the track will play, shoot, forward of midfield and advantage, leaders plus, especially 1,000 to 1,200. That's where I want to be. Circle, forward of midfield and advantage again, but just on speed, not so much leaders, just on speed, I think is where I want to be. Now, if this track falls into really soft 6, because currently now it is a soft 6, if it gets back into the soft 6 range, then I'm sort of tempering that circle to actually be off speed and really negative towards leaders because I think those lanes 1 and 2 probably really chop out. So just keep an eye on that throughout the day. In terms of your intel from the lanes point of view for Caulfield, mate?
Lanes 3 to 6, a nice corridor. It's usually pretty spot on when we get that too. So I would be looking at, even though you're sort of saying leaders in those 1,000 to 1,200 metre races, as we know, it's only one turn into the home straight. So you might even see them just sitting, you know, a horse or two off the inside part of the track coming into the home straight, and that'll still give them a decisive advantage. So that ties in pretty well with what you're saying, mate.
Yeah, beautiful. And also, when you are leading, whether it be in a 1,000-metre race or whether it be a 2,000-metre race, you get to create your own destiny a little bit, and you can actually shift off to whatever lane you think's better. So there's no knock there. Let's get to the feature race, mate. It's the Orr Stakes. Points bet market. Look, I think this race has got the ability to become a really good race, and I reckon it probably got knocked around a bit just by that really wet track last week that the couple of horses didn't decide to back up. I think if it was a good track, I wouldn't have been surprised to see horses like Giga Kick come back for a 7-day backup, even horses like Magic Time, all those kinds of horses. I think in the future for this race, I think it's got potential, even though this year people would suggest, well, it's a bit light on. But top 2 of the pops are quality horses. Jimmy Star and Angel Capital.
They are. Yeah, they really are. And you're sort of right. It's a bit like the all-age stakes here in Sydney. So, you know, some years it's really, really good. Other years it wanes a little bit. And it all depends on what happens during the carnival. As you know, rains like hell up here in the autumn carnival. So by the time we get there, some horses are just cast and they just need a bit of a break, at the very least, to freshen up. So I agree with you. Sometimes there is a little bit of merit having a 1,400-metre weight for age race towards the back end of the carnival. It brings the milers together with the sprinters who come up in distance, and it can create some interesting narrative in terms of determining the form lines.
Absolutely. Let's get to the speed map. So it is possibly going to be a tactical affair, but we know where Jimmy Star and Angel Capital will probably be. They have to be neutral from the gates because they've just never in their career shown gate speed. And we'll get to those 2 horses a little bit later. But I'm going to start with, I think Evaporate, if it wants to win this race, has to roll forward. Now, the other horse I think that can go forward is the 3-year-old Vinrock, which gets the blinkers first time, Nico. So possibly the way I've got this mapped, I've got Evaporate first and then I've got sort of Vinrock sitting outside. I wouldn't actually be surprised if Vinrock ended up with 53 kilos. They actually just, with that blinkers first time, went all the way and said, let's try and lead this race. But I think they sit around the 1-2. And Jimmy Star and Angel Capital is really interesting. But let's just start with those horses at the top of the map. Do you think that's about right, that a horse like 3-year-old Vinrock, Blinker's first time, they have to roll forward?
I've got Vinrock going to the front without a shadow of a doubt for two reasons. One, I don't think he can win in the sit and sprint.
Yeah.
If he sort of holds up and sits outside Evaporated, takes pace out of the race, it allows Jimmy Star, and I won't go too far into what happens behind these first two, but it probably allows Jimmy Star to get the 1 out, 1 back position without having to do too much work. And then he's going to get out sprinted. So I think Vinrock has to go forward, has to go to the front. Also think that Jamie Melamon Evaporate, she's probably going to be content with allowing Vinrock to cross without handing up too easily, but allowing Vinrock to cross so she can go and sit outside lead. Yeah. She then determines the pace of the race. Both those two horses want this run at a reasonably genuine gallop, because if they hold up, they're going to get out sprinted by the big boys.
It's a really good point, and we mention it a lot. Just because you go, oh, well, if it's a slowly run race and you're last, well, then it suits the front markers. Well, it only suits the horses on like that are first and second if they've got the best turn of foot. Now, we know, history's told us with looking at these horses' sample size, that Angel Capital, and in particular Jimmy Star, have the best last 300, last 200, last 400, whatever you want to call it, in this race by far. You're right with Vinrock. It's a sort of on speed, grinding, got 11 5s, 11 5s, 11 5s, but doesn't have a sub 11 in it. It just doesn't. So you bang on in terms of how the speed is. And Evaporate's probably pretty similar to Vinrock in terms of that's how its MO is of winning races. But we know that Jimmy Star and Angel Capitals, if they really need to, can possibly do 10 5s at some stage if it allows them. Right. So I think there's a few other horses here that I just don't know where they're at in terms of they could end up be a bit of a concern for, say, Jimmy Star and Angel Capital to get in their way, like Mighty Ulysses and possibly Bazusto. Here's the thing. Angel Capital draws 5. Jimmy Star draws 3. Looking at the map, how I've got it, I've sort of got Jimmy Star ahead of Angel Capital. If that's the case, Angel Capital I don't think has got any hope whatsoever. The only hope I believe that Angel Capital has got is that it can keep Jimmy Star to the left of it and, in essence, keep it in a pocket for as long as it can, and then it can make the move and obviously get the march on Jimmy Star. That's the only way I see Angel Capital beating Jimmy Star. You got thoughts on this, mate?
Yeah, I disagree with you there, respectfully, of course. Actually, no, disrespect.
Yeah, I prefer it disrespect.
Look, I think what's going to determine what happens between those two is actually going to be Evaporate and Vinrock. The faster they go in front, the better it is for Angel Capital, because he's probably more of a, I'm not going to say more of a 1,400-metre horse, but he'll relish that fast tempo. He'll drop his head easily. He's going to be out the back. He has to sit last in this race. I think Jimmy Star potentially grabs the 1 out, 1 back. Now, if Evaporate rolls along outside of Vinrock and they go at a good gallop, Jimmy Star and Ethan Brown, and Ethan's riding really well, but they've got to make a decision. Do we stay on their back, or are we a loose 1 out, 1 back? When I say loose 1 out, 1 back, you've got that gap, which means unless Mighty Ulysses kicks up underneath you, you're going to be taking the field up to those two tearaway. When I say tearaway leaders, they might just be 2.5 lengths clear, that type of thing. And I think that is the ideal scenario then for Angel Capital, because Jimmy Star's got to do a little bit of extra work in the run, been up to Sydney and back. I know Angel Capital has as well, but Jimmy Star's just got that extra run under his belt, this preparation. He's now 5th up. Angel Capital's only 4th up. And I just think if they roll along in front and they go a little bit above tempo, then it brings Angel Capital into the race. Small field. He doesn't have to be too far off him. He loves a fast tempo. We saw him in a fast run with Sir Rupert Clarke Stakes. Very effective. Possibly should have won the race. Whereas I think Jimmy Star, he just gets left in that spot. He all of a sudden goes from having that beautiful 1-1 trail to now actually having to do a little bit of donkey work to take the field up, while old mate AC's just 2 pairs back behind him doing absolutely nothing. And if the rain does come a little bit and we get into that soft 6 and they're winning further and further away from the inside part of the track late in the day as we expect, Angel Capital just sort of waits and waits and waits and goes bang in the home straight. So I've got a slightly different view. I still think Jimmy's the one to beat, but I think that's how Angel Capital gets him beaten.
All right, that's very good intel. Let's get to Pin the Tail, mate. 8-6 last week. Obviously, 10 Tyrus comes out, 22 cent deduction. You were $4.20. I was $4. which ends up bringing up our price, as you can see from the graphic. You were $3.25, I was $3.10. Jolly Star starts $2.75 favourite. This week we're Jimmy Star. We're pretty close to the mark again, mate. Like at the moment, I think PointsBet is bang on about even money. I'm thinking $2.30 when the percentages sort of come down. I thought maybe there might be a little bit more percentage that goes into a horse like Vinrock because he might get the map advantage. They might crush in him a little bit. And then Jimmy Star sort of kicks out around that $2.30. But you're pretty close to me.
Yeah, look, I to be honest with you, I could have landed on 230, 220, sort of 215 around that mark. I think you will get black figures about Jimmy on the day. Just particularly, like you say, they might just play into that Vinrock space a bit. The market does quite like 3-year-olds in weight for age races in the spring, and particularly if it's a little bit on speedish and forward of midfield and he's able to get to those better lanes. So not much between us, mate. I've bottom dressed you this week.
No, absolutely. Let's get to my set for Caulfield. I'm going to start in race 3. Just got an opinion of this horse. Now, it's off 91 days, which is not too bad. It's had 2 jump outs. I feel like it's rated only 71, but there could be a plan that they want to get to the Pakenham Cup with this horse, at home track. It's called Skipper's Canyon. Outstanding 2 runs in Australia. First up, 1,400 metres, Sandown was just breathtaking. Then second up, Caulfield, just didn't work out for it. Got in an awkward spot, but still really good. Market just wanted to hammer it. It might be a big track horse. It might get into an awkward spot, but I just want to be with Skipper's Canyon, keep following it. Race 4, number 4, Hedged. Beast Mode's going to be in front of us. Third up, this camp. I think they're ready to rock and roll. Good effort behind Caballas last start. Want to be with Hedged. Race 5, if this horse can get 1,600 metres, it's only had the one go at it, Eternal Flame. We always look at this horse and go, yep, it'll be better at bigger distance. 1,400 metres is its go roll on high, but I'm hoping it gets to 1,600 here. Want to be with it. Race 7, Sandown Guineas. I want to be with the 12. She's an alibi. She picks herself. Will at the last start. She ran herself all the way home, outstanding through the line. And in race 10, love this horse. Second up, might have the just fitness edge overtaken, who I've got a massive opinion of. Spioni in the last. Righto, Nico, let's get up to your neck of the woods. It obviously is Newcastle. True position the entire circuit. I'm expecting good 4. How do we think this track's going to play for the punters out there?
Just a small penalty lane 1 and maybe the tiniest penalty for lane 2. Then from lane 3 basically outwards, it's all fine. So it's not. Don't think it's the rail. It's a rail off day. It's a little bit of a penalty, which is actually what I think is perfect for racing. So what we're doing here is usually when we get this for Newcastle, and obviously this isn't a space we play in too often, but I can tell you over the years from getting this info, it's usually just a little bit of an advantage to be forward of midfield. You don't have to be leading per se, but you want to be in that sort of first 6 or 7. And I think you'll find the majority of the winners will come in lanes 3 to 9. They won't be much wider than 9 because there's just no benefit being out there. And when lane 3 and 4 are perfectly fine and winnable and just as good as the wider lanes, they tend not to come too wide. So I'm looking for horses a little bit sort of like Everest Day, and we'll talk about a horse that ran on Everest Day in a moment's time where, if you are coming from behind, you've probably just got to sort of go through the middle of the pack at least to start with. You don't want to be coming 7 or 8 wide around the home turn. So let's have a look at 3 horses that I picked out for the meeting. The first one comes up in the Spring Stakes. Now, this was once upon a time a really good race and used to be the lead up for races like the Victoria Derby and stuff, Spring Champion Stakes. They used to use this to platform into it. Number 3 here, Green Spaces for Bjorn Baker in those Godolphin colours. Bjorn almost stole the Champions Mile down there with Pericles last week. This horse beat the older horses last time out. He box-seated on that occasion. You're looking at the replay now, like he was just trucking into the home turn. The second horse was the odds-on favourite for the race. And it was only a 4-horse field, I get that, but he's run the second fastest last 200 metres of the entire day, and it was his first go beyond 1,300 metres. So I'm sort of thinking that this is his go. This horse is a proper miler. And you've got to disregard a lot of his form over those shorter trips where it does look a little bit plain. Just judge him off what he did last time out. So I think they can lead this race if they want to. There's not a lot of pace in the race. And if you've got the zip to produce the second fastest last 200 metres of the day, I think that's going to bode really well for this race. He gets all the favours from mine. Fast forward to the Hunter itself. I think Clear Thinking, she was unreal winning the Kosciuszko first up from a spell. She was off about 30 or 32 weeks, Jules, and she was hammered in betting. And you know from working with bookies and that for years that when you see a horse off that length of break smashed in betting, it's usually a really good sign. She's now 5 from 7 overall. She ran the best last 1,000 metres of the day on Everest Day. Keep in mind, Kaying Rising was running that day. Angel Capital was running that day. Some really good spreaders were running that day. She's run the best last 1,000 metres of the day. So she is what I think above average horse. I don't think she has to get back to last, as a lot of maps have got her. I think she can probably sit on midfield or a touch worse off. She's probably going to be in that 3 wide with cover sort of lane, if you like.
Yep.
And I expect her to be really strong late. In the same race, you could have a little saver on the credited as well. We'll appreciate getting onto a dry track, but he will be buried away on the fence and he will need luck in the straight. The last of the 3 bets for me comes up in race 9. This is the Beaufort, the 2,300 metre listed race. It's a horse that ran down your neck of the woods that was going great up here. He went to Melbourne and just did a few things wrong. His name's God's Window.
Yeah.
He went around about $4 or $5 in a Bendigo Cup, won by Sadati or Saturday, as you call it. I see Waller's taken the winkers off him. He wanted to over-race in that Bendigo Cup. Not much went right for him. Just trust that SP. If he was a $4 chance in a Bendigo Cup, against this opposition, I think he should be around the $5 or $6 mark. You're getting around sort of $9, $10 about him now. He's a great 1x2 play for mine, mate. So other than that, other what I can tell you about the 100 race days last year, 8 of the 10 winners jumped from Barry's 2, 3 or 4. So it gives you a bit of an idea of where you need to be. 3 leaders won, but we also had 4 horses that were 3 lengths or more off the pace of the 600. So like we said, track should play fair. There'll be an advantage to horses drawn just nice sort of soft middle gates.
Love that. If I'm going to pin you down, what's your play of the day for Newcastle, mate?
Yeah, I reckon Green Spaces. I just love what he did when he got out and tripped for the first time last time out, and the fact that he was able to finish off with really good, strong last sectional. I know it was a slow tempo. I think that bodes really well for him in the Spring Stakes, and we know how keen all these traders, including our man Bjorn, are to get important wins on the board for the big blue army Godolphin.
Absolutely. Love that intel for Newcastle this week, punters. Righto, team. Well, big introduction here for the Foxcatcher family because we have the pleasure of introducing Daniel Cripps to the Foxcatcher team. WA starting to heat up. This guy been following for a very long time. We do not bring people into the team that we don't think are valuable. We think this guy's going to be really valuable. Welcome, Dan. How are you, mate?
G'day, Jules. Thank you, mate. Going well. And yeah, thanks for the kind words. I'm keen to jump on board and looking forward to working with you over the next few weeks. And what better time to kick off than with the Ascot Pinnacles starting on Saturday, headlined by the Placid Arc Stakes. It's going to be a ripper.
All right, Dan, let's get to the speed map for this Placid Arc and just have in the overarching thing, we've got Ascot, obviously, out 3 metres the entire circuit, good 4. Our man, Nick Ashman, who I was just speaking to, sort of gave us some information that he thought the guys that have walked it for him, maybe lanes 4+ might be okay, but not a big, distinct advantage. You've been there, you know all about these kinds of tracks. How do you think it will play? Is there going to be any real advantage to anything, you think?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear Nick's thoughts on that and from what the track walks have said. At the moment, I'm a big believer that the Ascot track is in absolutely fantastic nick. I think it's a really even playing surface. So for me, the main key to any pattern at Ascot at the moment, and it's always been a track in WA where it is really affected by the wind. So on Saturday, we've got a southwesterly breeze forecast, which should only strengthen as the meeting progresses. And I reckon it could play a little on pace early, but by the time we get into the back half of the card and that wind starts to really blow, I reckon it's going to give horses back in the field their chance. And it's all really tempo related. If there's going to be leaders, if you can get away with a bit out in front, that's fine. But if they go nice and hard, then yeah, look for horses swooping late.
Love that, and that's how we want our tracks to play, as fair as they can and be tempo-related. Let's get into the map for this Placid Arc because it's going to be interesting when you've got a horse as short as Luana Mist. You really want it to be a horse that ticks all the boxes in terms of puts itself into a high percentage play. Looking at this map, mate, it might be not such a high percentage play from a map point of view. Yes, it's got the ability. Yes, it's got the turn of foot. But, and look, it looks a cute draw on paper, but it may get itself into a tricky spot. You think Castle Road probably leads this field?
Yeah, for sure. Castle Road will jump straight to the front. That horse only knows one way, likes to lead, roll, and set a genuine tempo, which is going to be good. There's a horse, Do I Feel Lucky, who will sit outside in the breeze. And then there's a couple of X-Factor horses in this map, namely Yes Queen. I heard on radio earlier in the week, Dion Luciani mentioned that it was a horse who used to lead and really liked to roll early in its career. They've been riding her back lately, but it wouldn't surprise if they go, well, we can't beat the favourite from behind her, so let's try something else. Although personally, I think it might be on a hiding to nothing if they do, because it just doesn't look like there is a position for it forward and midfield. But yeah, tactics got to be interesting early, that's for sure.
Luana Miss is the favourite. Let's look at her from a map perspective. She doesn't seem to have great early speed in that first 200 metres. They seem to go, let's let her find her feet, because then obviously her best asset is her turn of foot at the end of the races. That's how you see this evolving. I mean, gate 5, it could be a little bit sticky for her.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from, Jules. At the same time, she actually breezed over 1,000 metres on debut, so she has the gate speed if they want to use her up. The question for Sean O'Donnell is going to be, like you said, you'd almost rather her draw slightly further out, and so she might be able to get into that 3-deep moving line. There's going to be a lot of horses who are going to want to position themselves between Castle Road and her, and those horses are bigger odds in the market, so there might be a few roadblocks that she's going to have to navigate at some stage. But in saying that, I think Sean O'Donnell would know that. You've got to be positive on her early, sit at midfield at absolute worst. And yeah, as you said, she's going to need some luck at the right stage. But yeah, I'm with the favourite here, Jules. First up, if you go back over 1,000 in the Max Simmons, she drew wide. She actually jumped really well, but was restrained, blocked badly on the top of the straight, launched late, absolutely moral beat. And then last start, she made amends. She did get the perfect run in transit 3 deep with cover, but that race was over a long way out. The turn of foot that she showed was absolutely electric, and yeah, she had them covered fairly comfortably. And I really, as we've sort of touched on, I just don't see how they turn the tables on her, barring bad luck. That's the only thing that gets her beat, in my opinion.
That's an interesting tell. So you look at it and you go, okay, there's black figures, sort of 210 points bet at the moment. Don't want to give away all your trade secrets, but what price would you sort of have her kicking around in your 100%, mate?
Yeah, Jules, I was $1.70, so the $2 plus is enough to get me involved. I mean, this market's been out for a few weeks and her price has been slowly chipped away, as you'd expect. There was even $2.50 available on PointsBet yesterday. That's Wednesday. So, but yeah, she's tightened right up, and even slight move again, 210 to 205 overnight. So yeah, look, she's getting short enough now because she is going to need some luck at some stage. But in saying that, at even money or above, I'll be backing her, that's for sure.
Love that. Really good push for the favourite in the Placid Arc Stakes. There's obviously a big card at Ascot as well, Dan. What else do you like through the rest of the card? I think there's 2 other horses that you've sort of identified for the punters out here.
Yeah, let's go one race forward to race 8, the Champion Fillies. Again, I'm with the favourite, Talk & Co. This horse is actually, we can use the Luana Miss form lines. Talk & Co won first up in that 1,000-metre race. Second up, she was a little bit flat, but you can probably forgive that run. It was a race where the whole field just struggled to make ground. Even King of Light, who's a boom 3-year-old at the moment, he only just sort of got there on the line. So sort of put a pen through that run. And then last start, really good effort. Had the winners back, and that's playing it sweet. Is probably the main danger to it on Saturday. She dropped her off at the top of the straight, but I love the way Talk & Co came again, hit the line, ran the fastest last 200 of the race. I think the mile on Saturday is really going to suit. Barrier 1, Brad Parnham, good jockey, good trainer. The main thing, though, is this is absolutely suited at set weights. She gets 4 kilos on most of the rivals and 2.5 kilos on Planet Sweet, and also a really big map advantage on Planet Sweet, who's drawn out in Barrier 12. So all things being equal, I think it takes care of them.
Yeah, listening to that, it seems to be a real high percentage play with also weights, jock, camp, combo, and then obviously that map advantage as well. We want to play into that space. Race 6, you got another one for us?
Yeah, just one more. So at the moment, the odds are only just starting to go up. We don't currently have a PointsBet market as of yet, but I'm sure that'll be coming out really soon. It's in the Colonel Reeves. Joker's Grin, who's a bit of a spruik horse in WA, is around $1.60 favourite at the moment, which rightly so. In saying that, I want to have a bit of a value play at Oscar's Fortune if we can get kind of $4 or above. Now, this horse, you're probably laughing at me, Jules. He's gone to over east, your side of the country, and he can barely get out of his own way
there for a while, mate. He could not get out of his own way.
I know, you're probably thinking, geez, what have I been smoking? So, but out here in the West, he's got some really good form. Highlighted, he ran second in a Winds Bottom behind Overpass, and then he ran third in a Quokka behind Overpass and Amelia Jules. So there's not much better form than that, out here in the West. And he went over east, didn't do that good. He came back to original trainer Dion Luciani. He was first up, no trial. It was a really hard horse to price. You didn't know what to make of him because you knew how good he could be, but there's massive money that day, 18 to $3.50. And while he ended up coming second to Joker's Grin by about a length, I actually thought the run was full of merit. He box-seated and he just couldn't get any momentum on the turn when Joker's Grin, really good ride by Pat Carberry to kind of be all over him on straightening. And their sectionals, their last 400s were almost identical. So the key for me today, though, is the map. Acromantula only knows one way. It'll lead, bowl along. You've got the roughy Oxbridge on its outside who should drop off pretty quickly. Oscar's Fortune is going to get that high run just in behind Acromantula, suck run, and be the first horse presented on straightening, whereas Joker's Grin, drawn barrier 9 of 9, probably goes back to last. So it's going to be a great race where Oscar's is going to hit the front, and then you're going to have one of the most exciting horses out west, Joker's Grin, trying to run him down. And I just reckon if we can maybe just catch a break on that horse, we might be able to hang on.
Love that, and I love that analysis, and as will the viewers. So really looking forward to the next 4 weeks that we're together. Dan, outstanding as always. Good luck on Saturday, and I'll see you next week, mate.
Thanks, Jules. Appreciate it. Let's do it.
Just before we end up taking off into the ether, just very quickly, here are the 3 plays of the day. We'll start with Nick Ashman's. It was race 7, number 3, Green Spaces at Newcastle. Dan Cripps was race 9, number 11, Luana Miss. He's with the favourite in the Placid Arc. And for me, we're going to wait till the last race. Race 10, number 13, Spione at Caulfield.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.